Hey YouTubers, Muskrat Jim here. I'm just heading out to my little campsite here just to sit down and have a little chat. Okay. Well, it's been warm the last couple of days, which is a nice change. We had a really cool spring up here. But anyway, it finally is starting to feel like summer. A YouTube follower of mine, well, now he's also a Facebook follower, I guess. His name is David Kralik. He lives in Georgia, and him and his wife are retired now, and they're spending all of their time outdoors, basically. You know, they've left the city life behind, and now it's time for them to relax and do what they like to do. And so anyway, he's doing some videos, posting them to YouTube as well, and he recently tagged me. What that means is that he wants me to do something on a video. So the tag is, what are your 5 greatest adventures? So this is my response. So my first greatest adventure is really more a place than an adventure, because the place, it was a place that I moved to when I was 11 years old. It was North Bay, Ontario, up here in Canada. And when I moved up there, I got exposed to a lot of outdoorsy things. Like, for example, I went partridge hunting with my cousin Ronnie, and that was the first time I ever fired a .22 rifle. And I also went snowshoeing with my cousin, his brother, my cousin Charlie, and he was in the reserves, and he used to do outdoor stuff all the time, and so he would take me along snowshoeing. He'd make up a big thermos full of hot coffee, and we'd head out into the woods, and then I don't know how far we'd actually go, but then we'd sit down and we'd have the coffee. And yeah, so that's when I first started drinking coffee, when I was like 11 years old. And anyway, yeah, fond memories of that for sure. Another thing that happened up in North Bay, a little bit after I went partridge hunting with Ronnie, I went back into that area with my sister Judy. And anyway, as bad luck would have it, there were some beavers there, and they changed the flow of the landscape, so it wasn't familiar to me anymore. So sure enough, I got turned around for about an hour before we finally got out, and I wasn't lost because I knew that the stream would eventually cross the road. So I wasn't lost, I was just turned around. And to this day, let's see, I was 11 years old back then. So that's 47 years ago, and to this day my sister still razzes me about getting lost in the woods. Oh well, that was a fun time anyway. Another thing that used to happen up in North Bay is I used to go fishing with my Uncle Joe, and he would take us out before dawn. Like, he'd wake us up and load us up in the car, and we'd drive out to the lake, and we'd fish for bullheads out there. And I just loved catching those things. Bullheads are catfish, for those of you that aren't aware. They're just little stubby ones. But anyway, yeah, they were great. And then we'd bring them home and we'd fry them up. And yeah, you have to be careful of the dorsal fin on those bullheads. Has a spine in it, like the first edge of the dorsal fin. So when you're removing the hook, you have to be careful of that. But yeah, fishing with Joe, that was an adventure in itself. Lots and lots and lots of fun. Another thing that happened up in North Bay was that we went to Algonquin Park, and we camped there for a weekend. And I can still smell the pine needles in the hot summer sun. You know, like it was great. I can smell it just like it was yesterday. One of the funniest things that happened during that trip at Algonquin Park was my cousin Kevin. He was swimming in the lake, and then when he came out, he had these little leeches stuck to his legs and to his arms. That guy's got the worst luck, I'm telling you. Now, my second great adventure, I'd have to say, was when I went to a handicapped kids camp up in northern Ontario. It was just beyond Kirkland Lake, and it was called Camp Northwood. Yeah, that camp really was a life changer for me, because before then, whenever I would see a wheelchair, I would associate it with some old person that was ready to die. But when I got to Camp Northwood, there was this one kid from, I think he was from Kirkland Lake. Anyway, his name was Dennis LaPalme, and he had lost both of his legs below the knees from playing next to the railroad tracks, I guess. And anyway, when I first saw him, he was doing wheelies on his wheelchair up and down the hallway. You know, it was, whew, it just blew my mind. And yeah, and I got to meet lots of other handicapped kids there, and because before that I had never met another handicapped person before. Well, maybe some old person that fought in the war and lost their leg or something like that, but no handicapped kids. And so that was a real eye-opener for me. It really was. And the counselors there, they had a bunch of activities for us to do. Like there was a pond that was there, an artificial pond that was stocked with trout, and us kids, we would go in there and we would fish, and that was great. And we'd go on hikes, and there was a swimming pool there, so they were teaching us how to swim, and of course we did like crafty things and that sort of thing. And we also got to camp out. So there was this camp, which it's really quite nice actually. It was a wooden platform for a floor, and then about 1.5 feet high of a wall, and then there was some beams that went overhead where you could stretch out a canvas tarp. Well, not really tarp, it was actually stitched up as a tent, and it would come down right to the walls, and they would tie it down below. And yeah, that was great sleeping in there. Like there was probably 20 of us kids all in this camp sleeping on the floor in the middle there. And the next morning we had breakfast, so there was this great big cast iron frying pan, the biggest frying pan I ever saw. It must have been, okay, it was probably only 2 feet in diameter, but it looked like it was like 3 or 4 feet in diameter. And anyway, so they were cooking up some pancakes, and so we were eating all those, and then we started to run out of pancake batter. So in order to stretch it, what we did is we dipped some bread in the pancake batter, and then we fried up the bread. Now the pancake batter that we were using was Aunt Jemima's buckwheat pancake mix. Now I've been looking around for that for a long time, and you know, just to rekindle those memories. And I don't think Aunt Jemima makes their buckwheat pancake mix anymore. But anyway, I'm off topic here a little bit. When we fried up those slices of bread that were dipped in the pancake mix, they looked cooked on the outside, but then when we cut into them, the buckwheat pancake mix just kind of oozed out. But hey, we ate them anyway. It was a lot of fun. Now the third great adventure I'd have to say was when I was a cub leader. And we took our cubs from New Brunswick all the way down to Bangor, Maine, and we stayed at Camp Roosevelt. It's a Boy Scouts of America camp, and it's on Fitz Pond, which is a little bit east of Bangor. Not sure exactly how far, but it's not that far. Probably, I don't know, maybe 10 miles, 15 kilometers, something like that, west of Bangor. And they had a great lodge there. Like, it was huge. Like, it could seat probably, I don't know, 100 people. And they fed us there, and we had some activities in there. That was great. And we got to sleep in canvas tents. Well, the cubs got to sleep in canvas tents, but us leaders, like, there was 4 leaders. Yeah, there was 4 of us leaders, and probably about 10 or 12 cubs, including my son. And anyway, the boys got to bunk out in these canvas tents, and us leaders, we slept in, they were more of a shed, a 3-sided shed with a roof and a floor, and 2 bunks. And so it was open on the one side. And yeah, we had a great time down there. The weather was excellent, and we got to meet, people from other countries. So there was one person there, she was from Norway, and she must have been involved with Boy Scouts over there. And well, we got to meet all the scout leaders that were there during those 2 weeks, and yeah, it was great. The boys, they got to swim in the pond, and we made some crafts, and there was an archery activity that the boys got into, and we climbed a mountain. Well, it's really more of a rocky outcropping that overlooked the pond. Well, it's more than really a pond, it's really a lake, because it's like 1.5 miles long and probably a couple 100 yards wide. So in metric, that would be like 2 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. So it was a real lake. It wasn't a pond, but it was just named Fitz Pond. There was something else. Oh yeah, right. We had cub activity, well, cub and scout activities. One of them was a theme night, and it was Africa was the theme. So we dressed up in African sarongs. They're like a toga, and we painted our faces, and we had spears. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Now, the 4th item on my greatest adventures would be going to a camp way out in the Annapolis Valley, I think it is, in Nova Scotia. There's a guy that lives in a city not too far away from me. His name is Rob, and he has kidney issues. Actually, he either doesn't have kidneys or his kidneys don't work. Anyway, he's on dialysis daily. Anyway, he was watching my YouTube videos, and it kind of inspired him to go ahead and continue doing outdoor stuff, even though he had kidney issues. So sure enough, that's what he did. He's out there doing some stuff, and he doesn't post much to YouTube, but he posts a lot of stuff to Facebook. And anyway, he invited me to go to his family camp down in the valley of Nova Scotia. And anyway, he said that a couple of his friends were going, and so there was a group of us, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, I think. 6 or 7 of us. And anyway, the idea was that we were going to do some fishing and camping and, sit around campfire and chat, whatever. Just lay back and take it easy. And so I told my wife I was going, and she says, "What? You're going to go out in the backwoods of Nova Scotia with people you've never met, except for on Facebook? Are you nuts?" Anyway, Anyway, I went anyway, and everything's fine. As you can see, I'm still alive. That was a couple of summers ago, and that following fall, it was right before Halloween, so like the end of October, he invited me to go down again, and so I went down, and then there was a couple of different guys went with us this time, and one of them was Wayne Russell from Cult Craven Bushcraft. Anyway, he's been watching my videos for several years now, and we had never met face to face, even though we're in the same province. And so this was a great opportunity to meet him and hang out with him and that sort of thing. So yeah, we went down, and oh, I forgot to say, the first time I went down, I said that we were planning on doing some fishing. So I was planning on trying to do some kayaking, and as it turned out, it was a really, really dry summer, and so there just wasn't enough water to use the kayaks. So we just sat around camp and ate and ate and ate and ate and ate. There was bear meat and venison and moose meat, and oh my goodness, I can't think of all the different types of meats that were there. But anyway, I brought food enough for the weekend, and I don't think I touched a single thing. You know, I was just eating everything that everybody else was putting out there. And that was way more than enough for me. And finally, number 5 of my 5 greatest adventures. A couple summers ago, I had the opportunity to fly out to Calgary, Alberta for the first time. And anyway, my wife had been there before, and she says, you know, someday you've got to get out and see the Rockies. There's really nothing quite like them. And I said, yeah, whatever. So anyway, I went out to Calgary with my wife, and then we went up to Banff National Park. And it was, I'm almost speechless. Like when I think of those mountains and the trees, and this was summer, and it looked like there was still snow up on the peaks. It was a sight to behold. It was just awesome. And I would sit there and I would just look at those mountains. Like they were quite far away, but they looked as if they were right there, right up in your face, you know. And wow, it would be really something to actually go camping and hiking up, you know, wherever the trails go up that way. But we didn't get a chance to do that. But still, you know, it's definitely something I'm glad I went to see, because there's really nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. So those are what I would consider my 5 greatest adventures. Now, to get on to these tags. Part of the idea of a tag is that after you've been tagged and do your video, then you pass it on and tag other people so that they will also do a video to talk about their adventures and that sort of thing. It's a way that YouTubers can interact with each other and try to generate more subscribers for their channels. So the 4 guys that I'm going to tag have been following my channel for 3 or 4 years, and each one of them has encouraged me along the way. I will be tagging Mike Reed from Mike Reed Outdoors, Martin Pine from Pine Martin, Wayne Russell from Cult Craven Bushcraft, and James Harris from Junkyard Fox. Now those guys, they've got some really good channels. They do a lot of different things besides bushcraft. Like they do some canoeing, and they do do-it-yourself stuff, and trapping, and cooking, and anyway, it's quite a range of activities that they do. So what I'll do is I'll put links to their channels down below in the description under here, and I'll also put a link to David Kralick's video that he did tagging me. So you can go check out his channel as well. So those were my 5 greatest adventures. I hope you enjoyed them. This is Muskrat Jim, signing out. For more muskrat survival videos, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember to click the bell to receive notifications of newly uploaded videos on this channel.